use ChatGPT for certain things, but like a lot of the tools have AI implemented into it. So one is we'll record our calls. We use Fireflies, and so to give us AI recording, summaries, transcripts, it's great. So that's just one example, right? We also, in our dialer for the SDRs, we use Orum, and they will give you a summary of each call quickly, so you can just look at that. So like it's being used in a lot of the tools that we use on a day-to-day basis. But simply ChatGPT or Claude, there's a lot of them out there. They can be used in so many ways that are helpful, whether it be like just a contract or digesting a particular document, legal documents. Like it can be used in so many ways. It's actually kind of scary, the amount of yeah.
Well, guys, we're back for another episode. Got to get adjusted in my new chair. John Karsant is joining us from Level Up Leads, I believe it is. I met you 4 years ago, and you messaged me about validation services, human verified phone numbers.
That's right.
I think you were we were both actually starting out at the same time, and fast forward 4 or 5 years. I've heard from the grapevine. You heard about John? He's doing big things. I said, what's he doing? His agency's grown like massively. He's got a ton of people, and I was like, okay, I had him on the podcast, but it didn't work. So let me try to get you back on to speak about this. 4 years, rapid growth, mate. We're on year 5. Tell everybody who you are. What exactly do you do? And then the key question is, why should anybody stay on this podcast for the next hour and listen to you?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I forgot. I'll answer all that, but I forgot we had talked a while back about the list building, and we did do a podcast, but I don't know what the issue was, but it didn't record, and so it was a scratch. But I'm glad we're back, and yeah, things have changed. I don't know who you've been talking to, but that's nice. They're saying good things. But yeah, what my company does, Level Up Leads, we're a sales development and appointment setting agency. So we work with companies to basically turn people who have never heard of you in your company before, turn them into interested prospects, set up appointments so your sales team has more selling opportunities. So we do that from start to finish. And a lot of things have certainly changed from doing list building, and we started adding on other services such as email, LinkedIn, and cold calling, SEO. And cold calling is really what is bringing us the most success right now. Yeah, I'd say 90% of our meetings we're booking are coming from cold calling. So right now we have 25 SDRs in-house, and that is what's driving most of our success.
Wow, 25 SDRs. That's a big jump, dude, from 0
to 25. It's a lot to handle.
That is serious. So, guys, if you're looking for appointment setting, the man is right here. So, John, why should anybody stay and listen to more? I think that's a compelling reason, but why should they stay and listen to more?
Well, one cool thing is, so we're working with roughly 50 clients right now, and there's always some coming on, some turning off. But the cool thing is we have a lot of insights as to what's working, what's not working across different industries. So we're kind of on the forefront of, hey, we're seeing this working in terms of outbound strategies and lead generation. So have some insights to a lot of different companies, and whether that or as well as my network and as to strategies and how to implement these campaigns and turn them into a success. So we could talk about that, but I'm open to any topics you want to discuss.
Wow, dude, this is really interesting. So one thing you mentioned that's really interesting is cold calling. You've recognized that it is a high paying service. Definitely companies who can afford it and have the patience to do that, they will pay dollars for it. They will pay a lot of money. We used to get our starting when we built our business was 10 meetings for 250 meetings each. That then moved to £8,633 a month for one rep to make calls, emails, and be a fully managed SDR. And then we grew that and it evolved into 22,000 for three reps pounds a month. And that was one client.
That's
And
solid.
imagine we took on 15, we were operating at 51% net profit margin, and cold calling was the sole revenue driver of our business. It was our only focus. So, what brought you to cold calling as a service?
Well, just started offering new things, right? You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, and then it just started performing better. And so we started pitching it more. And so it just kind of became of its own. Like it wasn't something that we were like, it wasn't super planned out. It was more like, hey, this is a need. It's going to be good to have different channels working to run these campaigns. And then it just started performing better and better. And then, we made changes over time. We started hiring better. We started charging more. We started improving the service overall. Probably one of the biggest ones is just simply getting better talent on the phones. Um, but yeah, it wasn't really planned out like that. It's just kind of the way it went. And once you start seeing success somewhere, you start to dive further into that. And so that's where we are.
So interesting that you say that, because yes, you can find success in cold calling, but having a good cold caller make good cold calls is one thing, which requires process, systems, and talent. Then on the other side, you can have a great service, but you put poor reps on it. So
It's
walk
true.
me through what it was like when, okay, there's an opportunity here to make cold calls, but recruiting for that cold caller, unless, like, I don't know if you're using like a cloud task or like an online marketplace or like maybe other underdeveloped countries, where did you find the opportunity in the talent for cold calling to hire for your business?
Yeah. Cloud Test is great. We have used them in the past, but they're a good option too. But essentially, for those listening, Cloud Task is a marketplace to source talent, but like at the tip of your fingers, right? So it's like you have these videos and you can interview and get people in the door quick. Um, we started doing surprisingly a lot of Facebook groups. There's a lot of people like so a lot of the SDRs that we have internally, they're living in South America, but they're from the United States. And so I started making that a requirement that they need to be native English speaking if they're going to work at the company. And so that's just improved our results, and calling into the States has helped a lot. It doesn't have to be at American English, right? We have some really, really good cold callers from Ireland and England too.
Hmm.
But that's where we started sourcing them. So essentially, since companies are outsourcing this work to us, they're already looking to save money and they're paying less for that. So you kind of need to find good talent not living in first world countries, right? You just can't, doesn't make sense. You can't afford. Um, Company can just hire internally, right, at that price. So we essentially find people that are living abroad, but a lot of them are college graduates, went to USC, Arizona State, things like that in the United States. And so we're getting high qualified people, but they want to live that remote work life. Um, so that's how we're getting them. Facebook has been huge. And then also referrals within the team. So,
Hmm.
hey, I have my friend, I worked with this person in the past. There's a lot of people looking for jobs with flexibility. So referrals have been huge too.
Wow. So look, that's a key driver to success right there. I think the talent pool and where to tap
It
up the
is.
right talent is awesome. But the right talent is drawn towards good leaders. So it'd be interesting to hear from you. A lot of people watch this to get inspiration from guests that we have, myself, to take themselves out of maybe a 9 to 5 working position into being a business owner, into entrepreneurship, right? Into fulfilling a dream. So for you, I've watched it, right? I've watched it on the surface and heard about it now. That's a rapid level of success. So when did you know you wanted to be a business owner?
Um, I'd say once it's a difficult thing. I think everyone comes from different backgrounds and positions, and there's lots of things that someone will have to consider if they want to uh, take the leap of faith. Could be financially, you have to be in a certain situation. It could be, you have family and that makes it harder, family and kids, to do something like that. But for me, I was in a good place financially. It was COVID, so I had a lot of downtime. And I don't have kids. I have a wife, but I don't have kids. So there was like, it wasn't a huge risk for me. And like the worst thing, I told myself, like the worst thing that could happen is it fails in 6 months and I go get another job.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's when I knew, it was like, hey, why, like now seems like a great time. And that's what I did. As I had the experience in this space. I've been working in lead generation for close to 10 years. And so I had the knowledge and I was in a good position to do it. And so, yeah, I haven't looked back. I'm open to working though with a company in the future, but you just don't know where I'll, where life will take us and where I'll be. But right now I'm enjoying the entrepreneurial lifestyle. And yeah, even I started another business with another friend that's not off the ground yet, but
Yeah.
it's in the lead gen space too. And so who knows where that will go, but right now Level Up is my main focus.
So what triggered that decision though? So the opportunities were there, the environment seemed like it was good, but what triggered your move to go from a place of where you were to saying today's the day where I start my business? And do
I
you
think,
remember it? Do you remember it?
yeah, it was roughly 4 years ago. And I was happy at my other job, but a lot of the things I was trying to implement and my ideas weren't getting implemented. And so I was like, why? Okay, it's kind of like I noticed a repeat pattern here for a few years. So so I was like, kind of got tired of it, and I was like, I could maybe go do this on my own. I didn't exactly do the exact same thing, but I spun off
Mhm.
in the lead gen space, but it's evolved over time.
All right. And then when you started to build this business, I really want people to understand what it's truly like. So some people may go and they think, oh, I can put, I thought it, I was like, I'm going to put CEO on my job title on LinkedIn is the greatest day of my life. And I'm just going to earn a bunch of money. And then reality hit and you have to make calls and you have to email and prospect. And fortunately enough for me, it was my first day. I had just purchased a license to Cognism, and it was my first day on the phone. I had loaded up a list of CEOs, and I spoke to a fella from an IT management consultancy. I think it was like my 16th call of the day, and you had a power dialer, so it was 4 minutes in. In the first 4 minutes of prospecting of being a business owner, I landed my deal and landed a 5,000,
Ooh,
right?
wow.
And that closed the next week. I never made a call again after that. Like focused, I had my team do it, but that was where I was able to get my second and third client very, very quickly. That hit me on 15, 20K a month. And then that's when the real problems started to happen of like disagreeing with your business partners or disagreeing with people that you hire. Maybe somebody isn't a fit. You want people part time, then they don't show up. And then finances and growth and leveraging other systems, and then the system doesn't work and you can't implement, like all these things start to happen. So for me it was extremely, extremely amazing to build a business. But for you, I want you to describe to those viewers that don't have an idea but could get a better understanding, what is it like to build a business?
Well, first off, I want to say that that is awesome that you were able to get a sale that fast. That is not common.
No, it's not.
Typically, when you start a business, you're going to have some friends or some network that will help you out or make some intros for you, but that's going to dry up pretty quick, and you're going to be starting from scratch in a sense. So yeah, if what it's like is expect to not pay yourself for a while, expect to invest your own money, or I don't know if you have other financial resources. Um, you might not be actually making money for several months. It depends on the type of business you actually launch. In the service world, you can actually start making money pretty fast, which is one of the nice things. There's not a ton of overhead. What ends up happening is over time, your overhead is the people and the technology that you're paying for. But um, for us, yeah, I wasn't paying myself much. Like anything I was making, I was putting back into the business. for the first 6 to 8 months. But yeah, you mentioned a few things, but just expect lots of problems.
Yeah,
And
but you got to dig deeper
you
into
just,
it. You got to give people something to pick on. They have to
yeah. So,
understand.
well, here's the thing: is as you mentioned, you may get some success, but then as you do better, these are good problems, but they're still problems. So, I'll just make up some numbers. You go from 5K a month to 15 or 20. Now you have a new set of problems because maybe you hired someone new or clients upset, you don't have processes or training in place. And so like, even though you're doing well, a new set of problems will come. And so here's another one, like Google might just change the way they operate something that you're using with
Yeah,
Google. And so they might say, oh, actually starting next month, we're going to do it like this and we're going to change. And so you might be like, oh, well, we use that the old way a lot. And so that some stuff's out of your control. Like a tool might get bought out and all these different things that you're leveraging often. And so some things are out of your control and it still becomes a problem how you have to fix it.
100%. What do you think was the biggest challenge you came up against when you was building your business?
Um, well, there's no way if I started the way I did and I kept doing it would still be here. Like I would have had to shut down the business. And I'll explain is I was essentially doing list building, which are one-time projects. And while that's when we talked a long time ago, is like these one-time projects, which is fine. They're in need and we still sell them from time to time. But people might take a list of 1,000 contacts and be like, okay, great. We're going to go work them for a few months. And then it's like you have to work again to get that next sale
Mm-hmm.
or for them to come back, even though you did a good job. So um, it was challenging to get repeat business. We still had people coming back, but it was like there was no reoccurring model. And so after 6 months, I changed the model and started offering subscriptions for running services and actually generating the interested leads and actually booking the appointment. And so that's when things changed significantly. If I had just stuck with my old way, there's no way I would have just grinding myself into the ground. So yeah, I started offering email services, then LinkedIn, and then cold calling, and then just on a monthly subscription. And so it just became so much easier to deliver those services reoccurring than just a one-time, $500,000, sometimes even more, $2,000 list build.
Yeah, of course. I remember because I remember it vividly. I remember it vividly. So, let's say when you were in those hard times, and was there ever a moment where you wanted to quit or give up?
Um, no, I was too early. I was too early for that. It was like I just need to make a change. Um, yeah, if at this point, like if it ever creeps into my mind, it's not necessarily quitting; it's selling. Right.
Yeah,
So it's different. Like the company's valuable enough now where it's no, you can't just no, I can't just quit. It'd be leaving way too much on the table.
of course, of
Um,
course.
but it's just a thought, right? I don't take action on that. But there, it's not smooth sailing all the time. We could discuss issues that arise, and I don't think they ever will go away. Like there's lots of good, but there's also stuff you're dealing with. With typically if it's a bigger problem, it gets passed my way,
Yeah,
and so you end up dealing with those. And we work with some really well-known brands, very big companies, publicly traded, and they still seem pretty unorganized
yep.
internally. So like I don't think it's ever going to end, no matter what size the business is. I just think it's a different set of problems as you grow.
I think that's really important to mention because the mindset you need to be able to manage emotions as a business owner and to be able to work in that fashion to say, okay, my business is not working the way it's operating right now. I need to pivot and do something that could work better. But then the pivot that you've done to make it work better and it does work better, where did you learn that from? Or how do you think you developed that skill set? Because that's a skill set in itself.
Don't have a good answer for you. Just reacting.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
I honestly don't know.
Wow. All right, cool. So what do you think is the best advice then? Last one on that before we jump into the AI section. What's the best advice you've got from any mentor coach that you've worked with?
I actually got some recently from an old boss that I think is really important is to build a support system for yourself.
Hmm.
And so sometimes it can be a little lonely if you're a solo founder and you're dealing with a lot of things on your own, and to build a community, whether it's paid or not, right? Um, to build a community and be able to bounce ideas, or someone else is in the same shoes as you, and be able to talk about these things with each other, I think is super important. So that's something I plan on doing more and more of in 2025.
Have you ever joined one yourself, or is it something that you'd probably create?
So I've been in some Patreon groups in the past. Those have been really helpful, and I learned from people that are much more experienced than myself. I am joining some here moving forward. One is the Dynamite Circle. It's
Hmm.
a group of it's been around for a while, but I've known about it for a long time. But I'm joining that. It's essentially a community of entrepreneurs, and they help each other out, and it's all online businesses of all sorts. And so I plan on joining that.
And
Yeah,
what
check
brought
it
you?
out. The Dynamite Circle.
What brought you to that specific community? What was it that caught your attention about that community?
So I've known about it for a while because some of my past jobs, my bosses were a part of it. So I've known about it
Okay.
and been following it for many years. And they have a podcast. It's called the Tropical MBA. I've been following that for a long time, and they are always giving out valuable insights and interviewing people that run online businesses. And so I've known about it, and now I just felt like, hey, now's a really good time that I need to join this.
Awesome, awesome. All right,
Yeah.
so jumping into the next piece, a little bit of this is about AI and how you apply it to the market that you operate in, which is lead gen, appointment setting, outsourced services. What are your views on how it's evolved from the moment it was released last year or even the year before to what it is today?
Like specifically ChatGPT
Let's
or
say, well, yeah, you could say ChatGPT itself, but you may be using AI in other manners. So, which one are you more familiar with? Is it the use of GPT, or are you using it in other ways too?
both. I use ChatGPT for certain things, but like a lot of the tools have AI implemented into it. So one is we'll record our calls. We use Fireflies, and so to give us AI recording summaries,
Hmm.
um, transcripts, it's great. So that's just one example, right? We also in our dialer for the SDRs, we use Orum, and they will give you a summary of each call quickly, so you can just look at that. So like it's being used in a lot of the tools that we use on a day to day basis. But simply ChatGPT or Claude, there's a lot of them out there. They can be used in so many ways that are helpful, whether it be like just a contract or digesting a particular document, legal documents. Like it can be used in so many ways. It's actually kind of scary the amount of yeah. For example, I was talking to a teammate yesterday, and he wrote up this really cool little cheat sheet for a client, and we were talking like, yeah, we should do this for all our clients. And he just put into ChatGPT like, here's just laid it out like, here's the cheat sheet for a client. Now do it for this other company, and it laid out a pretty good one for the next company based off the format and everything that was already in there. So it's like it still needed some work, but it did like 75% of the job. It's like
Wow.
it's pretty impressive.
It's crazy what can be done with it. Like even for us, I've used Fireflies for the past 3 years. When I found out about that tool, Fireflies AI, I thought, whoa, this thing is a game changer. And
Mm-hmm.
now it's come into a place where our Fireflies calls, they are transcribed, then the summary sits in CRM. We have all integrations that fits it into CRM, but then we also generate our emails off of those transcripts with the key points of the discussion, right? And then they sit in the drafts, and then whoever needs to send that email across the whole team, they're able to do that along with various other ones. So it's pretty cool that, again, Orum is very cool. I've used Orum too. Fireflies is really cool. In terms of GPT, Claude, Grok, which is your go-to for either of those models?
For writing, I use Claude. If I'm trying to write something particular, I think it writes a little bit better. But everything else I use ChatGPT.
What's your number one use case for ChatGPT?
Typically documents. So when I want to upload something or have it analyze a document, that's when I'll go over there. And then my team uses it too, right? So they're in using the account. So I will use like Claude for more personal things because it's my own, whereas the ChatGPT is a team account. I'm curious, how do you use, what are you using? ChatGPT, Claude? Like, how are you using AI these days
Oh my
for
God.
yourself?
So ChatGPT I use for various methods. So a big thing that I focus on today is frequencies and vibrations and change, like a lot of my life and the major like milestone shifts I've made in my life have been from changing my frequencies, which are levels of being an employee at a 9 to 5 to taking a life coaching session and understanding what is it like to become a CEO. What do you need to embody the life, the behaviors, the mindset of a CEO? And I used to pay $1,600 for 12-week sessions, right, from life coaches throughout the year. I eventually got my spend up to 22,600 for a 4-month program with a business performance coach. And a lot of this advice now I can get from GPT. So I use it to talk to and say, I need you to act as a very professional business coach. And these are my items that I have to look at. Let's say it's the development of my ICP for this person. Okay, now create me 100 because I have these 100 personas that I got to go to. Map out my accounts. Okay, put it in a table. Now tell me my strategy for the next 3 to 6 months. How should I implement it? If I want to incorporate ABM, what are the kind of insights I should be focusing on? How do I develop reports? Okay, that's a cool report. Develop me the report. Great. Now make me a blog. Like all of my GTM approach comes from an origin of ChatGPT. But then, like you saw, I pay $120 a month for my subscriptions. On the bottom screen of my iPhone, I've got GPT, I've got Claude, I've got Grok, I've got Gemini on my Google Workspace. And then the last one is there's another one. There's one more. I can't believe I can't think of it right now. But I'm using them in various ways, as well as let's say HubSpot. So you know how Level Up Leads did human validation on HubSpot. Now they have AI integrations where you can update your entire CRM with validation and filling in missing fields. So like the ability to have a 15-person operation, or what it was like to have a 15-person team or an operation and deliver the workload of that, barring cold calling, I can do that with two, just because my frameworks and systems over the past few years I was able to develop. So for me, that's not even scratching the surface. So, but on your front, if you're looking at sales and marketing and how sales and marketing team, let's say your business specifically, appointment setting, outreach, how would you recommend other businesses use AI for their business in that fashion too?
Well, I think you touched on it, but I think it's a no-brainer that if you should be recording your calls. It's just you can not only understand there, like Fireflies is an example, but there's several other companies out there that do similar stuff. But you can understand how many questions were you asking, who was talking more in the call, and then you can have it easily summarize what you said, and then you can create a email follow-up based off the call. That's like a no-brainer. Like, why would you not be doing that? That is one. And I do have a question because I'm going to say my opinion on this, but I also would like yours. But like, it will, ChatGPT or any AI tool will write that for you. But I do notice I can tell when something feels AI written, and so like I try to go back and humanize it. What is already written for me. It's just like a little too formal. And so that's what I do whenever I have something written for me. I will go back and review it and add it like with my own writing style. Can you tell right away when something's written with AI? And what do you do? Like, do you do anything about it? Do you try to either change the prompt or go back and edit it yourself?
So the best things I've found is the answer is yes, to an extent. To a certain extent, I can. And it's based on the clusters of information and how it's written. So that's typically what it is. I have written a ton of content with ChatGPT, and
Mm,
I have been penalized for it in terms of how much it's viewed on LinkedIn or on other platforms. But what I wanted to use ChatGPT and the content for was to get into the habit of posting regularly and consistently until I came to a point where then when I do write, at first it was write, change it, shorten it, lengthen it, change this. Then I understood write in the voice of Shane Mahi, this position of this company. And it would write it very, very close. And then you have less to really do. So on that front, I have seen it write very, like sometimes it doesn't do exactly, it needs a lot of work,
mm,
but I've seen it to be, again, it's a jump starter. In my opinion, AI is used as a jump starter. So anything ideation, anything you're stuck on is the ability to clear a bottleneck or an idea, let an idea start and then build a plan to get the idea started. And then it's like the runway right before you take off. You just have a longer runway. So, but to answer the question on can I identify as it, yes, to a certain extent. I wouldn't say I'm great at it, but to a certain extent. What
mm.
why do you think it's important that people understand if it's AI written or if it's human written?
Um, I can I feel that I can tell a lot of the times when it's AI written with
Hmm.
not much um, customization to a particular, like it just doesn't sound as human written, and it's
Hmm.
easy to spot. And so I just think it's best if you can use AI to your advantage, but it doesn't look like you are. And
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, it could be emails, it could be agendas, like you name it. But it's just I've noticed I can tell pretty quick. Um, so it depends on how you're using it, right? But if it's customer facing and you're using it in sales, I would try to humanize it as much as possible. Just so like like for example, an email, cold email, you want to try to make that sound as human as less automated or least automated as possible,
Of course.
right?
Of course.
But if you use, I know it's getting better and better, but if you use strictly AI, like sometimes you can pick up on that.
Yeah, of course.
But I know there's a lot of tools that are getting better and better, and Clay and integrations, and like you can humanize it. But I would just double check your copy and make sure it doesn't seem too robotic.
I think that's a really good takeaway. A lot of people are using it and they're having it as their kind of their final product, right? And I
Yeah,
think mistake. So what you're mentioning there hugely valuable. So if you were to make some predictions, so for those that are business owners, they're in the same position of you. They have 20, 30 reps. Their business is growing rapidly. It's a new year. What kind of predictions do you have for businesses using AI in 2025?
I would leverage it as much as you can, but learn how, like, get people in place that know how to use it to their advantage. And I think that will become more and more valuable. I know
Mhm.
for sure we're not using it to its maximum capability. 100%. We probably just don't have the knowledge, like the people with enough knowledge to use it to our advantage or know how to. Like we know there's all these capabilities. I'm using ourselves as an example, but for your company, there's probably a lot of things that you can use AI or a particular tool to be more efficient or maximize whatever, like contacting more people, scraping data, validation processes, like all sorts of things. And I think that if you can get people in place that know how to are familiar with AI, like it'll help you out significantly in your operations.
How do you see yourself using it in 2025? Like how in using it in your strategy? Is it to hire more AI specialists? Is it to use more technology around AI? What do you think your game plan or the game plan you'd recommend to others would be alongside yours?
For us, we actually just got something in place, and it is for so essentially we started hiring more and more SDRs, and it became too much to manage.
Yeah.
It was just too much. Uh, Different people, different all our companies have different ICPs and offerings, and so what we did is we got a tool in place that allows each SDR to not only like an AI bot, so they can do role playing against the bot and essentially practice the script and ultimately handle the objections and then set meetings. But it also does it will like it'll analyze live calls too. So you have the practice side, but you also can analyze the live calls. And so we have that in place now, obviously AI driven, and that is extremely helpful. So now someone can easily take a look at a large scale of calls and understand where they can go listen in and provide feedback, look on any, is there any trends going on, things like that. And so it's a much easier way to manage a large set of calls and people. Whereas before we couldn't do that. So that's just one example, and we're still pretty new, but we look forward, like in 2025, to dive deeper into that and understand how we can improve ourselves as an operation. So we can, when we start working with clients, we can get set up quicker. We have more practice with the script, and then ultimately start booking meetings faster.
Wow, I think, mate, that's a game changer right there. Again, just what makes these podcasts and conversations so interesting is everybody is so different. So I have roughly 150 to 200 guests a year now. So last year till this year, well, May to May was about just under 200. And now from May to now, there's been, I can't even count, right? But
It's a lot.
It's a game changer, because the amount of CEOs, business owners I'm able to speak to that quickly without any agenda, and just about insights, information, trends, like how businesses operate from their view, others, it definitely changes. And what you said there can be very, very different and unique when somebody's buying a service, because now they're buying a service where the rep is taken from a C player to an A player. This is the exact kind of use case or highlight that people want to focus on, that ability to do that. What do you think are your biggest concerns, though, with using AI, businesses using AI?
I guess it depends on the exact use case, or like in what ways. Like, it's certainly taking away jobs, but it's also creating new jobs at the same time. So like we have copywriters in house, but like I don't know how long. I know I was just talking about humanizing stuff, and I still believe in that. But like, it's now easier and easier to pump out blog posts and content, and so like it could be taking away some positions.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like I was mentioning, like getting someone in place, like maybe in an operational role, or depending on the responsibilities, that knows how to use AI to the company's advantage. Yeah, I don't know. It's evolving very quick in the capabilities. Like, I think Claude just came out with the ability to code on its own, and so like
Mm-hmm.
it's evolving very quick. So my concern is, like, where is it going, right? But in the meantime, I think a lot of people are riding the wave and using it to their advantage.
It's very true. So when you don't know where it's going, what kind of sources of truth do you go to or lean on to get a bit more clarity on what the future of AI looks like?
I don't know. It is evolving a lot, but like I think talking to other people in the space, how are they receiving things? How are they doing things? But also, how are they receiving things? I'm talking specifically like sales.
Yeah.
Um, one big topic is there's AI SDRs now, right? So there's back end, but there's also front end of AI actually
Yeah.
making calls. So like that's a big topic. I haven't seen or heard of any success stories yet, but some of these companies are getting funded. So I don't know. Is it working? And I just haven't heard of the stories. But yeah, I haven't seen anything like on LinkedIn or talked to anybody that said it worked for them. Um, yeah. What are your thoughts? I mean, because the AI SDR is a hot topic right now.
So the company I'm working with right now, Mega AI, they started in the space building AI SDRs. But 6 months into the build and the development of it, the regulation tightened up, and it said you can't really use it. If anything, it's robocalled and it's banned. So
I
we
think it
had to.
is in the United States. I think it is.
Exactly. And that's where
Yeah.
the largest opportunity for cold calling is
Yeah.
globally. So we had to pivot, and we went into a niche sector, but it was a blessing in disguise, because the niche that we went into is a slam dunk. So the process now is accounts receivables, collections, order to cash, and that's, hey John, you haven't paid your Chase card bill. It's now 300. It's been outstanding for 6 months. Are you going to pay it? No. All right. Can you make it in maybe 4 installments? No. All right. Well, then can we pass you through an agent? That's the yes. That's the AI kind of workflow that is required. So on the AI SDR front, I have seen a lot of companies come out of India, a lot of companies that have tried to white label an existing product. But again, the nuance of a cold call and the ability to have a structured conversation that can go in so many different directions that's never predefined, that element is, or that skill set, that technology, it's not there. It's not developed to that point yet, in my opinion. And where I think it will be is, again, like you said, how you have a co-pilot or like a little sidekick for your SDRs that they can role play with, they can get their insights with. Maybe the next iteration is, how can your reps just have calls and then everything within their workflow or their day is done by an AI agent, updating CRM, adding notes, moving deal stages up and forward, sending out contracts, sending out emails. Like all of that is where an AI SDR is really, that's where it'll shine.
Mm-hmm.
But what in terms, go on, what was you about to say?
I was just going to say, so I think there's a better use case, exactly how you're describing, on the inbound side versus the outbound. We have a client right now that they are essentially replacing call centers or overflow centers. So companies that get a lot of phone calls during peak hours. I don't know, it could be anything from like a home service business to whatever. And so like when they have a huge influx of calls or they just have a high call volume, this essentially does everything. It takes the calls off hours anytime, it schedules, processes payments, like all sorts of things on the inbound side. It's only a matter of time before more companies start adopting that. But on the outbound, I still think a human's best.
No, you're
For the
absolutely
reasons you described, yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think that's probably the best way to wrap up the pod. It's the humans right now are the trump card for doing outbound. It's clear if somebody's built and grown an agency like you have, from list building to 25 reps, hats off to you, dude. So if there is somebody on the other side of this screen watching and says, you know what, I do need lead gen services right now, who do they go to? Where do they go? Where can they find you?
The best place is go to our website, levelupleads.io, and you can book a call. There's a button right there. You can book a call with us, and we can have an intro call and understand your business, what your needs are, and whether or not we're a fit to run outbound campaigns for you.
And then is there any other places that you want people to hit you up? LinkedIn, other social?
LinkedIn's good. Yeah, I should be the only John Karsant on LinkedIn. Last name Karsant. You should be able to find me there. I post 4 or 5 times a week.
Nice. Is there any last words? Any last words before we wrap it up?
No, thanks for having me on, Shane. Appreciate it. I'm glad we were able to knock it out after a little bit of a hiatus.
Exactly.
So happy to come back on, and yeah, congrats to you and some of the success you've had over the past few years.
Thank you very much. So hats off to you. I don't think it will be the last one. So if there's anybody else that's watching this, head over to John's profile on LinkedIn, connect with him if it's relevant, levelupleads.io. All of the information, we'll share it all in the description here. But that's a wrap. That's the pod.
Thanks, Shane.